There are moments when the air feels heavier than fear itself, when every step you take seems to echo through a battlefield no one else can see. Have you ever wondered why certain disasters missed you by seconds? Why impossible escapes became part of your story? Maybe it wasn't luck. Maybe two unseen guardians have been standing between you and a darkness that never stopped hunting your soul. Because while something ancient has been watching your every move, something greater has been protecting your purpose. Tonight, you'll uncover the invisible war surrounding your life and why your survival has never been an accident. Most people believe the greatest battles happen where everyone can see them. They imagine conflict as loud voices, visible enemies, or dramatic moments that make headlines. But the most dangerous battles are often completely invisible. They begin in silence. They begin in the corners of your mind, in moments of doubt, in unexplained fear, and in the strange feeling that something is trying to pull you away from the life you were meant to live. Every day, you make choices without realizing how close you may have come to a completely different outcome. A delayed appointment, a missed phone call, a sudden change of direction, or an unexpected feeling telling you not to continue forward. These moments are usually dismissed as coincidence, yet sometimes they leave behind an unsettling question. What if they were not random at all? Think about the times when disaster almost found you but somehow never reached you. A vehicle that passed seconds before you stepped onto the road. A decision that seemed disappointing at first but later saved you from heartbreak. A friendship that ended before it could destroy your peace. There are moments that make no sense until years later. Looking back, you realize that what once felt like rejection was actually protection. What once looked like failure quietly became the foundation for your greatest strength. Life has a mysterious way of revealing its hidden patterns only after you've survived them. The unseen battle is not always about physical danger. Sometimes it is fought inside your thoughts. Every dream begins with belief, and every purpose is challenged by uncertainty. Fear whispers that you are not enough. Doubt convinces you to stay small. Anxiety tells you to expect the worst before anything has even happened. These invisible voices become powerful only when you mistake them for your own truth. The greatest enemy is often not standing in front of you. It is the belief that you should stop moving because the road feels uncertain. That is how countless destinies are abandoned before they ever begin. Yet there is another force working just as quietly. While fear tries to convince you to surrender, unseen protection often guides you toward another path. Sometimes it comes through intuition so strong that you cannot explain it. Sometimes it appears through people who arrive at exactly the right moment, speaking words you desperately needed to hear without knowing your struggle. At other times, it shows itself through unexpected delays that later reveal themselves as blessings in disguise. You may never fully understand how many unseen dangers you were spared from because the protection happened before the threat could ever become visible. Many people only recognize protection after they have survived something impossible. They replay the events in their minds, wondering how everything aligned so perfectly. One tiny change could have altered the entire outcome, yet somehow every piece fell into place. These experiences remind us that life is often far more mysterious than it appears. What feels ordinary on the surface may carry extraordinary meaning beneath it. The invisible battle is not always dramatic. It is often subtle, unfolding through ordinary moments that quietly shape extraordinary destinies. This is why your perspective matters so much. If you only focus on what went wrong, you may never notice everything that went right behind the scenes. Every closed door could have hidden a greater danger. Every painful goodbye may have prevented an even deeper wound. Every delay may have positioned you exactly where you needed to be. The human mind naturally remembers pain. But wisdom learns to recognize protection hidden inside disappointment. The invisible battle also explains why growth often feels uncomfortable. Every time you move closer to becoming the person you were meant to be, resistance appears. Old fears return. Familiar temptations resurface. Negative voices grow louder. It almost feels as though something wants you to remain trapped in the version of yourself, self, that never discovers its true potential. But resistance is not always proof that you are on the wrong path. Sometimes it is evidence that your next step carries greater purpose than you can currently see. Imagine living every day with the understanding that every choice matters, every instinct deserves attention, and every obstacle may contain a lesson instead of a punishment. That perspective changes everything. Instead of becoming consumed by fear, you begin to move with awareness. Instead of believing every setback is defeat, you start asking what unseen good could be unfolding beyond your current understanding. You stop seeing yourself as someone abandoned in chaos and begin recognizing that even in your darkest moments, there may be forces working quietly to preserve your future, strengthen your character, and prepare you for a purpose far greater than anything you have imagined. Have you ever noticed how certain seasons of your life seemed unusually heavy, as if unseen pressure followed you wherever you went? It wasn't just one problem or one difficult person. It felt like obstacle after obstacle appeared the moment you started believing in yourself. Relationships became complicated without warning. Opportunities slipped away at the last second. People who once supported you suddenly questioned your worth. It almost seemed as though the closer you moved toward becoming your true self, the more resistance surrounded your path. Many people dismiss these experiences as bad luck, but there is another way to view them. Sometimes the greatest opposition appears because your life carries a purpose that challenges everything built on fear, doubt, and limitation. Darkness does not always arrive wearing an obvious face. It often disguises itself as discouragement, distraction, temptation, or endless comparison. It studies your habits, learns your weaknesses, and patiently waits for moments when your confidence is lowest. It doesn't need to destroy you overnight. It only needs to convince you to stop believing in yourself. A dream abandoned is just as effective as a dream stolen. That is why the greatest battles often begin inside your own thoughts rather than in the outside world. Think about how many times you questioned your value because of someone else's opinion. One harsh comment stayed with you longer than 100 compliments. One betrayal made you suspicious of everyone who genuinely cared about you. One failure convinced you that success belonged only to others. These moments were never just about circumstances. They became internal battles, shaping how you viewed yourself. When fear becomes your identity instead of your emotion, it quietly limits every decision you make. There are also people who seem strangely uncomfortable whenever you begin growing. They may not understand why your confidence bothers them, but something inside them reacts to your progress. Instead of celebrating your victories, they criticize your ambition. Instead of encouraging your healing, they remind you of your past. Instead of inspiring your future, they keep pulling your attention back to your mistakes. Their words are not always loud, but their influence can be powerful if you allow it. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay there. Some people appear only to test whether you will protect your peace or surrender it. Darkness also speaks through distraction. It convinces you to chase approval instead of purpose. It tells you to compare your journey with everyone else's. It whispers that your timing is wrong, that you started too late, or that someone else is more gifted than you. Comparison steals gratitude, and without gratitude, even your greatest blessings begin to feel insignificant. You become so focused on what others have that you stop recognizing the unique path unfolding beneath your own feet. One of the most powerful illusions is the belief that every setback means you are moving in the wrong direction. In reality, some of life's greatest lessons are hidden inside disappointment. Closed doors force you to search for better ones. Delays teach patience that instant success never could. Rejection redirects your energy toward places where it will actually be valued. Looking back, many of the moments that once felt unfair eventually revealed themselves as necessary turning points. There is another reason resistance feels so personal. Growth changes your identity. Every time you refuse to repeat an unhealthy pattern, every time you choose discipline over comfort, and every time you forgive instead of carrying bitterness, you become someone different from the person you were yesterday. Change threatens everything that depended on your old habits. Fear loses its influence when courage becomes your daily practice. Doubt loses its power when action replaces hesitation. Darkness cannot control someone who refuses to live according to fear. That is why awareness is one of your greatest strengths. The moment you recognize that not every negative thought deserves your attention, you begin taking back control. The moment you realize that not every critic deserves your energy, your confidence starts returning. The moment you stop chasing acceptance from people committed to misunderstanding you, your purpose becomes clearer than ever before. Your focus shifts away from proving yourself to everyone else and toward becoming the person you were always capable of being. Every challenge you have survived has strengthened something inside you that comfort never could. Every difficult season has sharpened your judgment, deepened your resilience, and expanded your understanding of what truly matters. The pressure you experienced was never meant to convince you that you were weak. It revealed strengths you didn't know you possessed. Instead of allowing fear to define your future, you begin recognizing that every obstacle overcame became evidence that you were built to endure far more than you once believed. The resistance surrounding your journey may feel intense, but it can also become the very force that shapes your courage, sharpens your wisdom, and prepares you to walk confidently into the purpose waiting ahead. There are moments in life that seem too perfectly timed to be explained by logic alone. A sudden feeling tells you to take another route, and minutes later you learn an accident happened on the road you almost traveled. An unexpected delay frustrates you, only for you to discover later that it spared you from something you never saw coming. A conversation with a stranger changes the direction of your entire future. Most people call these coincidences because they cannot see what may be happening beyond the limits of their own understanding. But sometimes the greatest acts of protection are the quietest ones, working so naturally that they appear completely ordinary. The work of unseen guardians is rarely dramatic. They do not announce themselves with loud signs or demand recognition for every moment they shield you. Instead, their influence often appears through gentle nudges, subtle warnings, and unexpected opportunities. They guide without forcing. They protect without drawing attention. They redirect without making you feel controlled. Their purpose is not to remove every challenge from your life, but to help ensure that the challenges you face become stepping stones instead of permanent defeats. Think about the moments when your instincts became stronger than your reasoning. You could not explain why something felt wrong, yet every part of you knew it was time to leave, remain silent, or choose a different direction. Later, the truth became clear, and you realized that listening to that quiet inner voice saved you from unnecessary pain. Intuition often speaks softly because wisdom never needs to shout. The people who learn to pay attention to that quiet voice often avoid dangers they never even knew existed. Protection does not always look like receiving everything you asked for. Sometimes it looks exactly like unanswered prayers. There are opportunities you desperately wanted, but never received. Relationships you begged to keep eventually slipped away. Plans you carefully built collapsed despite your greatest efforts. In those painful moments, it is easy to believe life has turned against you. Yet time has a remarkable way of revealing hidden blessings. Months or even years later, you discover that the opportunity would have trapped you, the relationship would have broken your peace, or the path you insisted on would have taken you far away from the person you were meant to become. Many people misunderstand protection because they expect comfort instead of growth. They assume that if they are being guided, life should become effortless. But true protection often includes preparation. It allows you to experience enough difficulty to build wisdom while preventing the hardship from destroying you completely. Every challenge teaches something valuable. Every disappointment develops patience. Every setback strengthens resilience. Instead of removing every obstacle, unseen guidance often helps you become the kind of person who can overcome them. Have you ever met someone at exactly the right time? A teacher whose advice stayed with you for years. A friend who appeared when loneliness felt unbearable. A mentor who believed in you before you believed in yourself. These people often arrive without warning and leave behind lessons that continue shaping your life long after they are gone. They remind us that guidance sometimes comes through ordinary people carrying extraordinary influence. A single conversation can redirect a lifetime, and one sentence spoken with sincerity can restore hope that almost disappeared. The same quiet protection can appear through closed doors. You apply for something you desperately wanted and receive rejection instead. At first, it feels like failure. You question your worth, your abilities, and your future. But as life unfolds, another opportunity appears, one that fits your purpose more completely than the first ever could. Looking back, you no longer see rejection as punishment. You recognize it as redirection. What once seemed unfair now appears necessary because it positioned you exactly where you needed to be. There is also protection in the lessons learned through pain. Betrayal teaches discernment, failure teaches humility, loss teaches gratitude, waiting teaches patience. These experiences are difficult, but they refine your character in ways success alone never could. Without them, confidence can become arrogance, and ambition can become recklessness. Every difficult season leaves behind wisdom that becomes a shield against future mistakes. The silent work of unseen guardians also reminds you to remain aware rather than fearful. Awareness helps you recognize opportunities others overlook. It encourages you to trust your values instead of following every crowd. It teaches you that peace is often a better guide than panic, and that clarity grows when your mind becomes quiet enough to listen. Life becomes less about forcing every outcome and more about recognizing the doors opening naturally before you. When you begin viewing your journey through this perspective, even ordinary moments carry deeper meaning. A delay is no longer automatically an inconvenience. A detour is no longer automatically a mistake. A season of waiting is no longer automatically wasted time. Instead, every experience becomes part of a larger story that is shaping your strength, sharpening your judgment, protecting your future, and quietly preparing you for opportunities that only the right timing could reveal. The moment you realize that fear does not have to control your future, everything begins to change. The circumstances around you may remain the same for a while, but your perspective becomes completely different. You stop waking up expecting the worst and start moving through life with quiet confidence, not because every problem has disappeared, but because you understand that panic has never been a reliable guide. Fear only magnifies uncertainty, while courage allows you to move forward even when every answer has not yet been revealed. For too long, many people allow invisible fears to make visible decisions. They stay in places that drain their spirit because change feels uncomfortable. They remain silent when they should speak because rejection seems unbearable. They ignore opportunities because failure appears more real than success. Slowly, without realizing it, fear becomes the architect of their future. Every choice is based on avoiding pain rather than pursuing purpose. But a life built around fear will always feel smaller than the life you are capable of living. True strength is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that fear will no longer determine your direction. Every courageous person has faced uncertainty. Every successful journey has included moments when the outcome was completely unknown. The difference is that courage refuses to wait for perfect conditions. It chooses movement instead of paralysis. It understands that confidence is not something you receive before taking action. Confidence is created by taking action repeatedly, even when the road ahead remains unclear. There will always be voices trying to convince you that your dreams are unrealistic. Some will criticize because they cannot imagine your vision. Others will project their own disappointments onto your future. A few may even smile while quietly hoping you never rise beyond the version of yourself they feel comfortable controlling. If you build your identity around other people's opinions, your peace will disappear every time their opinions change. But when your identity is rooted in your values, your purpose, and your willingness to keep growing, outside criticism loses much of its influence. Walking fearlessly also requires letting go of the weight you were never meant to carry. Many people continue reliving old mistakes, as though the past has the authority to define their future forever. They replay failures, betrayals, and regrets until those memories become stronger than their hopes. Yet every day offers another opportunity to choose differently. Wisdom comes from learning the lesson, not from living inside the wound forever. Healing begins the moment you stop asking why everything happened to you and start asking what every experience has prepared you to become. Purpose is rarely discovered while standing still. It reveals itself through movement. Every new skill you develop, every difficult conversation you face, every act of kindness you choose, and every challenge you overcome becomes another step toward the life waiting for you. You may never see the entire path at once, but you do not need to. A single step taken with courage is more powerful than endless planning without action. There is also great freedom in accepting that you cannot control everything. You cannot force people to understand your heart. You cannot guarantee that every plan will succeed. You cannot prevent every disappointment from entering your life, but you can choose your response. You can protect your peace instead of feeding resentment. You can respond with wisdom instead of reacting with anger. You can continue moving forward instead of allowing one difficult chapter to convince you that the entire story has already been written. As your confidence grows, something remarkable begins to happen. The same situations that once overwhelmed you no longer have the same power. Challenges become opportunities to practice resilience. Delays become opportunities to strengthen patience. Criticism becomes an opportunity to sharpen your focus. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin asking, "What is this teaching me?" That simple shift transforms obstacles into classrooms and pain into preparation. Walking fearlessly does not mean pretending danger does not exist. It means refusing to let danger become your permanent mindset. Awareness keeps you wise, while courage keeps you moving. Together they create a life that is guided by purpose rather than controlled by fear. You become someone who listens carefully, acts intentionally, and refuses to surrender your future to temporary emotions. One day you will look back at the seasons that once seemed impossible to survive. The sleepless nights, the unanswered questions, the closed doors, and the unexpected detours will no longer appear as meaningless suffering. They will become evidence that every challenge strengthened your character, every delay refined your patience, and every difficult decision prepared you for greater responsibility. You will recognize that the greatest victory was never simply reaching your destination. It was becoming the person who could carry that purpose with humility, wisdom, courage, and unwavering faith, refusing to let fear write the ending of a story that was always meant to be far greater than your doubts ever imagined.